least, he was going to go to the highest bidder. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what most players do. Nobody wants to play for the Raiders, but a bunch of players Tyler Linderbaum took the damn money. Think he wants to go to the Raiders? Well, for that money, he does. Pat Kerwin says it all the time. It's like, money talks and records walk. Like nobody cares about, oh, this is a good team, this is a bad team.
Do you think what happened yesterday will change their thought process on Goedert? Like, could they think about bringing him back? I feel like the longer it goes on Goedert, maybe the more chance the Eagles bring him back.
Well, I mean, if the market completely bottoms out, I can't rule it out, but I get the sense that they're moving on. My guy Charlie Kohler got a big deal with the Chargers, I believe. But certainly from, the changes they want offensively, they want more of a guy's going to set the edge. So I think they're going to try to find that somewhere, trade market. But, if you're talking $6 million 1 year, if it completely bottoms out, you can't rule it out. But I get a Reed feel with, like, if you would have told me 11 million Reed Blankenship, I would have said they're going to let him walk. If you would have told me 8.25, I said they'll probably keep him. Yeah, and they didn't keep him. So that's why that's the biggest surprise to me. Even more than Phillips, who was their priority, but 30 million, they weren't going there.
We'll see what ends up happening, man. Appreciate everybody being here. Here is Brian Garner. Reed never made any money. Even if the Eagles offered the same or slightly more, he could make more money from the lack of state taxes in Texas. I get it. It's true, actually.
Well, yeah, it's very true. But, I mean, I think if they offered the same money, he'd be back. He loves it here. Obviously, he and Cooper are tremendously close. He's tremendously close with a bunch of players, not just Cooper. I know players were hoping Howie would want him back, bring him back. He's a team captain. Again, voted. That's not appointed. It's very well respected in that locker room. I think if they offered him the same deal, yes, I'd rather live in Texas too. I think he'd be back.
We'll see. Brian Garner, thanks for the super brother. Here's Eduardo Reza. What's up, Eduardo? The funniest thing about this free agency season is the fact that Burrow has to face Watt, Garrett, and now Crosby twice a year. Holy moly, that's brutal for him. Send prayers to his family, Eduardo says.
Yeah, he's already taken. He might turn into Andrew Luck pretty quickly if they don't fix their offensive line injuries, retiring early. But if anybody can do it, it's Joe. He understands. He gets the ball out quickly. But, yeah, they need to. And they made some moves on the offensive line, but the Bengals. But they need to fix it quick.
Good stuff there, Eduardo. Here's Kyle Studer. What's up, Kyle? JM, who could be the next Patrick Robinson, Zach Bond type of value find? Any position on the table?
Nobody. Forget about Zach Bond. Patrick Robinson, that's a possibility. Zach Bond happens once in a generation. That's an all-pro player. Patrick Robinson caught lightning, had a great season. And then sort of, I still remember, I tell that story all the time. Patrick Robinson was brought in to play outside, and he was having a brutal training camp. I mean, brutal. And I still remember an interview I did with him with a couple other reporters. And those were the days we were still allowed into the NovaCare complex. And it was in the vestibule of the back of the NovaCare complex. Sorry, the Jefferson Health Training Center. Apologies. It's my first mistake from the big change in name. And he was just, the only word I could describe it as depressed. He was doing such a bad job. He thought he was going to get cut. And all of a sudden they move him inside, put him in the slot, and he just takes off. And he was the best slot corner in football that year. So I think that sort of lightning in a bottle, and then he got a pretty big deal with New Orleans the next year and went back to being just a decent player. But that's the kind of guy. Zach Baun is so outrageously, overachieving from what he was. I don't think that's possible. But I think it's unlikely for both. But yeah, I would focus on the Patrick Robinson type, not in the slot. They have a slot corner, so they don't need that, but they need some kind of impact. If they sign somebody like Chason, for instance, on the edge, is that going to make a difference? I don't think so. I mean, I get the odds are against those things happening for a reason. They don't happen often. You look at 2017 as a whole, it wasn't just Patrick Robinson. It was also Chris Long. It was also LeGarrette Blount. And they hit on so many one-year prove-it guys. Most Tamu off seasons end up like last off season, where you sign a bunch of those guys and they don't end up being what you hope. And that's Patrick Robinson or Chris Long. So you hope for in the middle. You're not going to get 2017, but it's got to be better than 2025, where your best of the Tamu signings was Adoree Jackson.
You think Adoree could come back?
Yeah, but later in the process.
Yeah, it wouldn't be right away. I agree. I think he could. I thought he was.
They're going to try to improve, but if they get through, remember they signed guys like Blount in May. If they get through the draft and they haven't fixed an issue to their degree, they'll start talking about veteran guys for 1 year who could come in and contribute potentially.
All right, here's Suplex City. Kyle, thanks, man. Here's Suplex. J-Mac, did Coop's agent call Howie after McDuffie signed and tell him Coop needs to be on the outside? It's a good question.
Well, I think that's the conventional thinking. The Eagles have made it clear what they think of him. I think that's purposeful. And Vic has made it clear he ain't moving him. So, and argues, that he has a bigger impact on the game where he is than if he played outside. And has consistently said, just because you're dominant inside doesn't mean you're going to be dominant outside. So they're not moving him. That changes when Vic leaves potentially, but I actually agree with Vic. And this is, again, I talk about it all the time. Oftentimes the business of football doesn't match up with the play on the field. And slot corner is a big example of that. Maybe the biggest example, even more than running back, because slot cornerbacks don't get paid nearly as much as outside cornerbacks. And the really, really good ones, and there's very few of them, but the really, really good ones, and number one is Cooper DeJean, have bigger impacts on the game than the outside corner, simply because they're closer to the action. Look, it's easy to get Quinyon Mitchell out of the game. Don't throw his way.
All right.
I mean, it's easy. Now, you say, well, that helps the Eagles in general. You're right, but still, the one of the easiest things to do is to take a big time corner out of a game. Just don't look his way.
Good stuff there. Suplex, thanks for the super chat, brother. Here's Jeff Bone. Who will replace Reed? Yeah, that's a big question. It's not going to be Sidney Brown, is it, John?
No. TBD. He's not here yet.
But they're not. They don't have that expectation for Sidney Brown based on what you know, right?
No, I think Vic is out on Sidney Brown.
Yeah, me too.
I think he might even get traded. But yeah, I mean, again, it's guys, this goes on. This is a bigger process than 24 hours. Free agency,